In this dashboard, we're looking at data based upon AMA records or call detail records coming in from a C20. This data is collected and compiled by the analytics engine, and it provides us a quick overview of what's going on based upon the call detail records or the AMA records, the actual cutting of information per call that the system is processing. What you can see in this system here is that we are tracking the total number of calls for this time period at roughly 3.9 million call records analyzed. You can see that we have the minutes of use summation of all the calls being processed at 4.3 million minutes of use. You can see over the time frame the actual spike of the calls coming in on that periodic basis. The analysis can pinpoint domestic versus international destination of the calls, also analyzing the disconnect causes of the calls themselves, and then categorizing them as completed calls, not completed calls left and ringing, busy signal, not completed calls, and then other calls sent to treatment and not completed too. We can then start to look at the analysis based upon the trunk group data, and you can do this as incoming and outgoing trunk groups. And then what you see on the side here is we have true and false, and that true and false is whether it was actual completed answered call or a non-answered call. So you can start analyzing that your 0262 trunk group had a 70% amount of calls that were not answered on the incoming side. And you can then kind of analyze each and every one of your trunk groups, seeing how many, what's the ratio of completed to non-completed or non-answered calls. Where in the 0190, about 54% were not answered. And then on the outgoing basis, for the outgoing trunk groups, you can see that the 0512 trunk group had 75% of their calls actually answered. So this gets you just so far that you can see how busy each trunk group was for the total number of calls made on them, and see which ones are actually making completed calls versus not completed calls, the time of the day, and start looking at a little bit higher level of what's going on in your traffic. On the next chart, we're actually going to take and kind of put that incoming and outgoing trunk group together, because you can see on that previous chart where the busiest incoming and busiest outgoing trunk groups, but where is your traffic really going? And when you convert it into a heat map using the analytics, you can now process and see and do the counts of the calls that are coming incoming and then outgoing another trunk. So we do see our 0226 trunk group again that has quite a bit of call volume going in, and it's actually going out 0322. The next highest one is the trunk group 0101, and it's actually going out 0227. So that's where you want to focus. You do see a lot of data on the previous one about the number of answered calls versus not answered calls, but if you're really trying to build your routing tables and understand where your traffic is coming in and going out, you can analyze it using a heat map.